Welcome back to CryptoZonZ, peer-to-peer, trustless, permissionless, decentralized news gets you into CryptoZonZ. Caution, you may never want to get out. Bitcoin rocket fuel follow-up. In this episode, I'm going to, number one, talk about, just clarify some of the comments that I made in my just previous video entitled Bitcoin rocket fuel. I will clarify comments that I made in my previous video about Bitcoin being a possible nation-state currency. I really don't think that's going to happen in the near future, so I'll clarify that. Number two, I'm going to talk about cycles, which are the period in between the halvings, and right now we're in between the third and fourth halving. The fourth halving will happen in 2024. Number three, I'm going to talk about a notion that I call MMSAT, most amount of money in the shortest amount of time. And number four, I'm going to discuss the dollar as the world reserve currency, and it may be an opinion that I have that is in the minority. But so we'll begin by talking. Well, first I wanted to mention before I start discussing those topics in this episode, the reason why I call this CryptoZonZ is because I wanted the freedom to be able to talk about almost any topic. So I have divided CryptoZonZ into 12 different zones, just like the numbers on a clock. The zone one is Bitcoin, crypto, blockchain, and peer-to-peer fintech. Number two will be traditional finance and Wall Street. Number three will be personal development. And one of the zones will be miscellaneous, which will give me a lot of freedom to do just what I want, talk about anything at all. But getting right into the topics here, number one, just explaining clarifying some of my comments and statements about Bitcoin as a nation-state currency. Between here and 2024, does it have the potential to become a particular nation-state currency? Yes, it does. Do I think that will happen? No, I don't. The reason why I mentioned that in my previous video is that it does, during this cycle, it really does have the ability or the propensity or the possibility to do that. I don't think it will happen. I do think that it's more possible that it could be part of a hedge or part of the ingredients for a particular nation state who may so decide to use that as part of the backing. And the reason why I say that is that because it is really developing into, I think that between here and 2024, that it really could develop its own particular value to a point where, because of that, the sheer amount of billions of dollars that Bitcoin will increase in market cap, that it could start to vie for really reasonably being an ingredient that a nation state could use to back up their currency. When you look at the market cap of a traditional store of value being gold, we think that the global market cap of that is about 9 trillion, and I think that it's not outside of the probability or possibility for Bitcoin to get that far in 4 years. Right now it's at about 170 billion, but that's another topic all of its own. But just to clarify that. Number two, I wanted to talk about cycles because they are an epic point or an epic event in Bitcoin protocol, in the programmatic design of Bitcoin, because every 4 years the rate at which Bitcoins are produced out into the market by the miners is cut in half. The Genesis block, up until 2012, there were 50 Bitcoins that were rewarded to miners every 10 minutes. At 2012, at the first halving, was reduced to 25 Bitcoins rewarded to the miners every 10 minutes. 2016, at the second halving, that was reduced to 12.5, and now on May 11th, 2020 at 3:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, that rate was reduced to 6.25 Bitcoins rewarded to the miners every 10 minutes. And so in the fourth cycle here, between the third and the fourth halving in 2024, with, I think, one very curious, one very evident, one very prominent change that will happen between now and 2024 previous to this, the price discovery of Bitcoin was really determined by the behavior of the miners, since it took great expense of energy to produce to receive the reward for Bitcoins. And as a side note, I think that just by that very fact, Bitcoin has caused a great search for greener energy and has been a juggernaut towards that. And because of Bitcoin, it has caused a much more of a market for cheaper, less expensive, and greener energy. So kudos to Bitcoin as a side note for that. But because of the business model for miners, it costs them so much. And as another side note, Bitcoins are birthed into the market with value. The moment they're created, they have value by the very fact that it costs money to birth them. But with during up until 2020 here, the behavior of the miners really determined a lot of the price discovery, and I think that's going to change now, and it will change to the behavior of what happens on markets, or exchanges in specific. In other words, I think that the price discovery of Bitcoins will be determined by what happens with how we buy it, how we sell it, how we store it, how we custody it, how we stake it, and some of the development of the on-ramps or the user friendliness of Bitcoin for people to easily on-ramp themselves to purchase Bitcoin. So that will be one very evident change in how that the price discovery is determined. Number three, most amount of money at the smallest amount of time. That is one thing that I attempt to do, and I don't apologize for it. I saw, even before deciding that, or the reason why I decided to get so much into searching and discussing cryptos was because of the fact that it is a peaceful technology. It is the first type of money that has been able to separate military might and riches. And by the way, it does that without a shot fired, so it's a peaceful technology. And I saw that it really enabled anyone anywhere at any time to begin to participate in an alternative economy by their own free choice. And so that is very, very important. Just liberty and freedom. And so it provides people an option. Do I like only Bitcoin? No. I don't need to divulge other things that I might be interested in. Well, I will. But what I mean is I'm open to gold, silver, stocks, real estate, artwork, companies, angel investing, if you will. But a big reason why I do choose to look into cryptos is because I do believe that it does hold the potential and the promise for the most amount of money in the shortest amount of time. Are there other things that are available or have that kind of potential? Yes, but that would sway more for me to develop my own personal genius, if you will, or talents to a point where I could cascade that or snowball that into something that would create more money in a shorter amount of time than any investments in crypto. And I'm open to that. I'm also spending my own time, energy into that. And time is something that you just can't buy. And overall, and generally speaking, I do mean to bring this up in this point 3, that the whole reason why I do this and present information and research information isn't for myself, it's for myself and for others. And with the idea being that we can free up our time, we can have true time freedom and make our money work for ourselves so that we can be able to pay our bills and seek our own artistic creation, our own choice for what we want to do with our time, and still be able to pay for it. So that is, I fundamentally doing this to free up time. Number 4, I did want to discuss, since number 4, the idea and notion and reality of the dollar being the world reserve currency. For a couple of decades now, so many economists and really brilliant sharp, intelligent, talented people have been talking about the oncoming doom and gloom of the crash of the economy. And do I think that could happen? Possibly. Do I think that it will in the very near future? No, I don't. And the reason why, I'll begin to espouse on here, but in thinking about things since the video that I put out just a few days ago, I realized that one thing that has happened with the infinity printing of money and the that meme here, money printing go brr, is the main argument for all of these naysayers about the present economy, that it will eventually collapse under its own weight. And I'm not saying that it won't. I mean, I'm not saying I totally disagree with that, but the reality, the natural fact of the reality of things at this present moment, it sure doesn't look like it. And one thing that I realized or saw since just a couple of days ago is the natural fact that by the very virtue of all these dollars going out into the market, what is happening is other countries are printing money also right out of thin air without any backing, just by decree of their own government. But the U.S., well, they just announced May 15th, 2020, the Senate agreed that they're going to put out $3 more trillion. And just today I read an article that Steve Mnuchin went on and on and on about, is that there's no end in sight. He doesn't intend to stop if he doesn't have to. And so the notion that another 3 trillion or 5 trillion or even 10 trillion they could decide to continue to produce, the U.S. has the ability to do that. But what is happening thus far is that at this point, right today on, May 19th, 2020, the U.S. has printed out of thin air about 3 or 4 times what the rest of the world has done. All the rest of the world, all put together, is like 1/3 or 1/4 of what the U.S. has already done. Paul Tudor Jones did a little bit of research, and this is already old. This is probably 10 days old. He said that there has been $3.9 trillion printed, and this is by far the greatest amount of money that's been printed in history in the shortest amount of time in the developed world history. And now we're like double that just since the 3.9 trillion. So, but what is happening is that we're seeing that other countries are coming to the U.S. for what they call swap lines. They're trading their currency for dollars. So much of the dollars that are being printed already is being put out into the world, and it is increasing as far as comparison or exchange rates. The dollar is gaining value. So I'm trying to wrap my head around that. I'm going to be doing more research on that, and what you're going to be seeing is, in the near future, more videos that are from Zone 2, traditional financial or traditional finance and Wall Street, as I'm going to be doing more research on gold and silver and real estate and maybe even art and just the monetary policy that is developing or continuing to develop in the world. So I appreciate that. I super appreciate your time. If you've gained some value, please click on the green planet there. I appreciate that. And even if you click the notifier bell so you get the videos the moment that they come live on the internet. Hashtag love all, serve others. The real intention why I do this is for others, to gain value and to share that with others. Hashtag love all, serve others. I wish you well. I wish you wealth. I wish you health. And until next time, peace.